How we doing, guys? Sam and Alex. It's that time of the week again. It's Friday. It's fishing report time. Alex, I know you've been getting out there a lot more than I have. Fishing's it's your fall transition. There's some hiccups on the road, but there are fish to be caught. So why don't you talk about what you've been doing first?
I've been actually going down to Chesapeake, pretty much fishing down the coast, surf fishing for pretty much redfish. Now it's a time to get out there and try to catch those bull reds heading south. That's been actually pretty productive the past 2 weeks. There's also going to be pretty much like a peak, which should be within this week or next.
Okay.
Of those bull reds moving south. Besides that, we're catching a whole bunch of smaller stuff like kingfish, spot. There's some pompano still left.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And a lot of stingrays, obviously, and there's some sharks still left out there. Also, fishing off the Route 50 bridge in Ocean City, guys have been catching good-sized rockfish. I mean,
Yeah,
up
absolutely.
to, like 30 inches. Good size bluefish still around there, and that's only going to get better. So,
Absolutely.
within the next few weeks, that's going to be going off.
So when you're red fishing, what kind of baits are you using? What rigs are you doing?
Mainly, we're going to be using cut baits.
Okay.
They're not that picky. Right now, we've been using a lot of cut spot. You can use cut bunker, even bluefish, and they'll hit those things just on a fish finder rig. And the only difference is that you're using a shorter leader, bigger
Don't get
size
wrapped
hook,
up, stuff
right?
Like that. Okay.
And then your bigger hook size 8 to 10 aught,
Okay.
depending on how big your thumb, how big your baits are.
And for the smaller stuff, just like a traditional bottom rig,
Yep.
for those pompano.
Yeah, so
croakers,
just
things like
a
that?
small, high and low rig, like you mentioned, small size hooks like size 4s, and even smaller. And what I've been using and actually getting a good amount of fish on, it's the clamfish bites.
Okay.
I haven't been using any actual fresh bait for them. Just those clamfish bites have been the ticket for all those smaller things.
Awesome. So if you are down that way though, and you're at the Route 50 bridge, rockfish, bluefish, what kind of lures are you throwing?
Jigs we have running here.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 ounce jigs, 1.5 ounce jigs, and those plastics that you pretty much use in the bay. Same things, except we're going a little bit bigger.
Just a little bit more
7,
current.
8, even the 5-inch baits. We'll get you some of those bigger rockfish and the 1 and the 1.5 ounces, just because, like you said, the current's just pretty much ripping through
Yeah,
there.
it's really a lot of the same motion we would be doing with our jigs up here in the bay. The only difference is you're adding a little bit more weight.
Right,
Almost
correct.
like you're red fishing out in the bay.
Exactly.
So pushing up our way though, there's still a lot of stuff to do in the rivers is really where it's been hot.
Yeah.
Magathie, Severn, South River, all those are starting to heat up. The Chester as well. You're going to see a lot of topwater fish. This is the time to do it. I know especially up our way, it's been really, really good. Some of the baits we've been throwing, if we can get away with it, I like to throw spooks if the water permits it. If it gets a little bit rougher out there, that's when I like to step up to things like these poppers and whatnot. But I've had really good luck lately on this Yozuri. I think that orange belly's just
Yeah,
great ticket.
little contrast on there.
Exactly. Although, fishing out on the main part of the bay is a little tough, but you are still running into some fish in your typical fall spots, the mouths of the rivers. That's where you're going to see those stuff. If you want to go out there with jigs, we're stepping up the baits. We're moving away from those 5, 6, 7-inch presentations. Now we're doing, 7, 8-inch baits a lot this time of year. We got a lot of big bunker in the bay. But if you don't want to do that, another thing you can do is jig for perch. I know this is the time of the year.
Hot.
They get really schooled up and they're really big and fat, and you can sit on top of them and catch a ton of them. Lures for that, these guys right here are a great rig. GI jigs, rigging a small fly above it or some sort of teaser jig can be really good. We've rigged some here in the house too. The bay bombs, those are great options. But this little bunker over here, that's been my little secret lately. I've been doing really, really well on these at the mouths of the rivers. I've seen a lot of fish schooled up, just kind of sitting on bottom on those slack tides and going over top of them with a heavier jigging spoon and just straight vertical
hitting
jigging.
them pretty much,
Old
right?
school stuff,
Yeah.
ease fishing, right? That's been doing really well.
Nice.
And that's something that's not only are you doing up here, but all the way down through the bay.
Yeah, are people still live lining out there?
They are if you can get a hold of spot. Spot have been a little cumbersome to get a hold of. We do have some here at the shop. You've also seen guys doing a typical fall thing with the small white perch. They're cutting
Nice,
the fins off, stuff like that. That's always a great ticket.
I mean, eels could work too right
Eels
now,
are
right?
a great bait. A great time for the eels. So up our way, it's been okay with the rockfish, but down towards Chesapeake Beach, it's been a little bit tougher. Those fish haven't quite pushed down. You're going to start to see them push down as we progress into the later fall period here. But another thing, bluefish, Spanish mackerel, it's a little tough on those guys. You are starting to see them. I know there were a few of them caught off of Poplar Island earlier this week, so there is the
spread out.
opportunity. Exactly, but they're all kind of schooled up together. You got small rockfish, bluefish, and Spanish all together. So don't run past those little schools of rockfish because you might find some Spanish and stuff in there. So take a look at those. And baits we're going to be throwing are stuff like the rain minnows. Those are pretty hard to beat in that water. You can move them pretty quick. If you want to jig underneath them for the bigger rockfish, you can do that as well. So what else has been going on?
I mean, besides that, I know some of the guys still down south in the 10-year area are still catching some speckled trout.
Okay. Cool.
And some smaller reds, but nothing really exciting to talk about. It's more of your mid-size, speckled trout. Usually, once the water starts to cool down a little more, we start seeing the push of those bigger fish.
Yeah.
Kind of, I guess, moving out. Everything's gonna be based on the water temperature. That's really what I like to keep an eye on. It's water temperature.
Water temperature.
And that kind of dictates what I'm going to be doing personally. I know the next next week or so, it kind of looks like it cools down a little bit, but then we still have those 80s throughout the middle of the week, which is going to keep temperatures probably still a little bit on the higher side. But once we get that first big cold snap, I think things are going to progressively get better as those fish start to pretty much move with the bait.
Yeah.
So other than that, crabbing, right?
Crabbing, I've heard, not over necessarily our way hasn't been great, but over on the east side, the Wye River, the Chester, I've heard those have been really, really good recently. A lot of guys out there. This time of the year, you can get away with chicken or clams. As we progress in the later fall, clams seem to do just a touch better than chicken. Whatever you guys want to do there, you can have that argument. Snakehead fishing, it's tough, but there are times of the day to go out there, and that's going to be that evening period. After that day's had the whole day to warm that water up, that's when you're going to want to target.
Yeah, and remember, if you're fishing shallow water, which all these snakeheads are shallow water fish for most of the time, remember, shallow water tends to fluctuate a lot faster than deeper water, so it will cool down really fast and it will heat up pretty fast. So if you're fishing your black water area, remember, once we get those cold nights, you might want to wait until the middle of the day or afternoon, like you mentioned, and you're fishing the same techniques. It won't change. It's just a matter of, once again, water temperature. If if you've been doing this for a long time, you know that's pretty much the key.
It's definitely a key with those fish. They're super affected by the water temperature. Speaking of water temperature and dropping, one of our favorite things to do is pickerel fish.
Oh, yep.
It's starting to heat up. It's that time of the year. Not many people are doing it, but there's tons of them to be caught. Pickerel don't go anywhere. They're still in your local rivers. They're still in the Magalies, Severn, Patapsco areas like that. Or on the east side, if you want to fish some of those lakes, this is the time to do it. If you want to hit Johnston's, Unicorn, places like that, they've got some of the biggest pickerel in the world, and this is the time to fish.
And I know we always kind of argue, me and you, about the best time. And I do kind of agree with you now. We're saying that probably that November, December months are probably your best time frame, and hopefully, like me and you, typically start pretty much at the end of October. So that will get pretty hot here in the next week or two.
It's a lot of fun. That cold water fishing. Speaking of those ponds and lakes, though, if you guys want to target bass fishing, fall is a great time to bass fish. You got 100%. All sorts of active fish. They're moving around a lot. You can throw a lot of reaction baits this time of the year. Spinner baits, things that you can move pretty quickly. It's a lot of fun. You can cover a lot of water, so it's really good. Fishing. Exactly. You can hit 3 ponds on the shore right now because you're moving so quick. You can really find some good fish. So I think that just about wraps it up. We thank you guys for stopping by, and we'll see you next Friday.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.